Oh, hey, welcome to Everyday Experts. Welcome. I'm your host, Joker, Sir Joker, Achille Joker, the Achille, whichever pseudonym you want to use today. Today I have the pleasure of having one of probably the nicest people I've ever met. I have a lot of friends that are nice, but she might be, the creme de la creme of niceness. She's the vice president at Family Residences and Essential Enterprises. She is somebody I've known for, I think I've known her 10 years probably. She also is a mother of two wonderful, lovely young girls. And her husband, Michael, is also equally nice. They're a very nice couple. I mean, people say that me and Patty get along well, but we're probably not nice like that. But Michael and Miss Reardon are actually very nice. Just so you know, she goes by K Wood, so when I call it K Wood, don't think I'm talking about somebody different. A lot of people take on the challenge of trying to rebuild and go through all these different changes and structural things. Kathleen's been through a lot of changes, life changes, having a second kid and then coming back to work and having to fight for certain things. So she's been through a lot. So without any further ado, I present to you the president. I'm sorry, she's vice president, but she's really the president. Miss Kathleen Wood.
Hi.
Oh,
hey. How we doing?
Good. How you doing?
Thanks for the hearts, Carolyn.
I love it. So,
yeah, me too.
Fun stuff.
Yes.
Now.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I am the one that you managed to etch time in your busy schedule of socializing and parenting and working to fit me in. And I appreciate that because it's not often we have vice presidents and people of the higher ilk on the show. Take the flowers. It's okay.
Thanks.
You ready to take flight?
I'm ready.
First question I ask everybody. If you could be a wolf, a werewolf, a vampire, a zombie, a ghost, a serial killer, or a witch, which would you be and why?
I like this question. I've definitely, I feel like I've been in a class with you before where this was one of your icebreakers when we were teaching. And I don't know. I guess I would have to say vampire. I feel like it's a typical answer, but and I feel like I said this in a class when I taught with you before too, that I feel like I don't know. Vampire is cool because you live forever, so you can, I guess, watch like all your family and things like that, make sure that everyone's okay. But it's also probably pretty lonely. Though it's probably really cool though, because you get to live your life like multiple ways because you're, every century or whatever, meeting new people.
Oh, I don't think I've heard that one before.
Yeah, my best friend just texted me and yelled at me that she said that she would be a zombie. She can't believe I said I'd be a vampire.
Why would you be a zombie? I must say that the reason I wouldn't choose a zombie is because I wouldn't want to be dead. I wouldn't want to be dead. That's one of my things. That's a good answer. A vampire.
Yeah.
Well, once you become a parent, you kind of feel like a vampire anyway.
Yeah. So, do you want me to ask it back to you what you would be and why?
Oh, you could ask.
I don't know if you've ever answered it on here before.
Of course, I've answered it. So, I would say that obviously. So, I wouldn't want to be a zombie because I wouldn't want to.
I mean, I know your answer, but I would know your answer.
I wouldn't want to be a vampire because I wouldn't want to live forever. I like the finiteness of life. I wouldn't want to be a werewolf because I wouldn't want to change into a wolf. I wouldn't want to be a wolf. I definitely wouldn't want to be a ghost because why? I mean, but I think vampire is probably my second answer. My first answer is always a serial killer because they get to stay human. And I wouldn't want to be a witch because I wouldn't, I'm not a Wiccan. I don't have that Wiccan vibe. But I would pick a serial killer because they're the closest to human. And a lot of times when you talk about like the Hannibals and the Dexters and the people like that, I appreciate that.
All right, awesome.
All right.
My brother texted me and said he would be a wolf.
Tell him he can go on he can go into the chat.
I know.
Go in the chat. Go in the chat. Put some hearts in there for Kathleen. Show her some love. Like the show. Subscribe. Do the notifications. All of that jazz. Comment. Let me say hi to the people in the chat. We have Christine and Maria. I'm assuming that's your best friend.
It is my bestie.
Oh, hey, girl. How you doing? Hey, best friend. That's my best friend. And Carolyn is in the chat, of course. And her husband, Mr. Wood, is in the chat.
Jay Wood.
The man. We'll start with, hey, Patty. Hey, girl.
Hey.
I'll start with Christina's question. How are you able to manage time between friends, family, work, and yourself? She doesn't. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Answer your question.
I don't. I'm not able to do it. I got to manage it as best as I can. So I don't know. I feel like it's I always try and be a positive person. So I don't want to say that I feel like it's a losing battle kind of deal because I feel like that's negative. But I feel like, you're always letting somebody down, if you're trying to be there for every person and, try and be the best that I can be at work. And then I'm also trying to be there for my family, for my friends. So it's a day-to-day thing that I have to try and juggle and manage like everybody else. And I try and make it look easy, but it's not.
You don't try to make it look easy. You make it look very easy. One of the things I will say is that you are very adept at making people feel comfortable with you. And that's a great skill, especially being a person who's been, who's a vice president and being an executive in an agency. That's hard. What do you think is like, how have you kind of shaped that in your life? How have you shaped that ability to just help people feel comfortable?
I don't really know. I mean, I feel like it's more because I like to get to know people, on a closer level, I would say. I tend to be a little bit on the shyer side, obviously. And then once you get to know me, I'm not a shy person, but I think that might be where, how people feel that way, because I do really, like to get to know people on a more intimate, like closer level. I like to understand why people are the way they are, or maybe like something happened to them in their life, try and get to know them. And I don't know, I just generally care for people. I know when I was younger, I had said that, like, when you're choosing what you want to be when you grow up, it was always that I wanted to help people. Obviously throughout, like I've had different professions that I wanted to be, but that was always the theme. I just want to help people. So I feel like not only just at work, but just like with friends and everything, I like to be that person that's like trying to help people, the advice giver, the person that's listening to, whoever it may be that needs just someone to talk to and just lending them some advice. So, and I also like to, or I really appreciate like everybody and their different walks of life, so like especially at work, regardless of whatever my title is or was or whatever, I'm particularly at my job, I'm not afraid to work a shift with a a direct support worker and work on the floor and get to know the people who live in the houses that we have, because in general, you are a better person, you're a better friend, you give better advice if you get to know people. So I just think that it's just kind of in my blood, I guess, to be that way. You know, just to chat with people and get to know them and really be, you know, I don't know, the best I can be for them.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you've had a bunch of jobs that I know of, and we're going to jump around just a little bit. I know you were a DSP, which is a direct service provider. You worked in a classroom. You also MSC. These are the jobs I remember. I know you oversaw QI. You were assistant vice president. You were vice president. I don't know if there was like a manager or anything or OD in there as well. I forget. Of those jobs, because you said you always wanted to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you think had the most impact on you, and which one do you think had the most impact on other people?
Honestly, the one that had the most impact on me was being what they call an HS, a habilitation specialist, which is the teacher in Day Services West. That was like the most influential, best job that I had. I was very young, right out of college. You know, that was my first experience in the field. And honestly, realistically, my first experience with people with disabilities, you know, things are much different, obviously, now. But growing up in where I grew up, they had kids that there was no inclusion classrooms, you know. If there were special ed kids in my elementary school, they went in and they had their own classroom. So I obviously, you know, I knew of people, I knew of developmental disabilities and things like that, but I really had no exposure to it. So it was my first job. My mom found, well, you know, at Free, my mom had found an ad in the newspaper about Free, and then started working there. And then at one point, this was one of my roles that I was in for a significant amount of time. But it was really the most amazing job. It really got me to, I think, at a good age in my life, you know, 21, 22. It really made me realize and appreciate things in life. You know, I think when you're a teenager or young 20s or things like that, sometimes you can feel like entitled to things, or, you know, that you know everything about life. And I don't know, or, you know, that little things at that time could be the biggest things. It was, you know, so dramatic, so over the top. And then you meet somebody who was born with a disability that they didn't choose to be born with like that. And they don't have the same luxuries that you have. Like, they don't have you have a bad day, you can go into your car, listen to your music and drive home. They don't have that luxury. Something so simple that we take for granted every single day. You know, I get to go into the car and put my music on no matter what. Like, I get to go home and choose whatever food I want to eat for dinner, and I don't have somebody writing a behavior sheet or tracking me if I'm eating too fast. So those like real life examples really really made such an impact on me and made me appreciate life more. It really changed my approach, even with even me giving advice to other people. I try and break it down and be like, you have no idea how good you have it, you know? So that really, and I'm so appreciative for that role that I had, because I don't think that, you know, in my current role now, which out of, you know, besides being a DSP is honestly my favorite role, because I really feel like in my current role, I'm actually able to make a lot of positive changes. And in other roles, I might have had power, but I actually am able to see the results and see the positive changes. And so for your second question, I feel like this role is one that I feel that is making a positive impact on other people. You know, coming from being a DSP, I'm able to connect with the DSPs that I'm lucky to work with that are in the houses that I have on my caseload. You know, really provide support to the supervisors or the senior supervisors or operations directors or other people from other support departments. That this is and that is for me, because I've always wanted to help people. It's like multifaceted. I not only get to help the people who live in my programs, you know, live their best life and try and help them fulfill and meet their goals, but also, you know, the lucky people that I'm able to work with in this current role.
Whew. Look at that.
All right.
Inspired me. Now I'm gonna go. I want to be like you when I grow up. So I would definitely say you've inspired a lot of people. But we're gonna come back to that. We're gonna find the early years when you were still K Wood, not K Reardon. Question: what were you like growing up? What was it like growing up, Kathleen?
I mean, from like real young?
Or yep, from the youngest you remember. Anything that stands out?
I mean, I grew up, I'm the youngest of three. I have two brothers, one who's 9 years older than me, and another one who's 7 years older than me. And I mean, like real young, I remember playing like different games and things with them. You know, again, they were a little bit older than me, so they were involved in like really cool games and things like that. And I remember always just wanting to like try and fit in and hang out with them. And I don't know, I feel like I have a good sense of a music appreciation just because I had brothers that introduced me to so many good songs like back in the day. So that too was something that was great. But my mom is a nurse. So yeah, so she's a nurse, and my dad was in sales for Campbell's Soup when I was growing up. So yeah, for my whole life. Yeah. So and I don't know how my mom is like, you know, how my friend Christina said, how are you able to manage time between friends, family, work, and yourself? Like my mom was such a role model in that area. Because I don't know how she did it. She worked 2 part-time jobs and like worked the overnights at the hospital. And, you know, literally as a kid, you know, I never knew she was gone. Like she was always there. She was always putting us on the bus. She was always doing things with us. Even after she worked an overnight at the hospital, you know, she's home, tired as could be, doing whatever she could be and do. But so she was really such like an inspiration for me. And you know, I lived a pretty typical life. I played a lot of different sports in middle school. When I was in high school, I played a lot of sports as well. Softball was really my best sport that I played.
Really? Oh, I knew you as a volleyball player. Interesting.
Yeah, I played softball in college. Yeah, I actually won. I was All-American. I won an All-American award for like nationally. For I was a pitcher. So that was like a lot of really cool things. I had like my parents were so supportive at every game. My dad was like, you know, every team I've ever played on, they'd all be like, "Oh my God, your dad is the sweetest person ever." You know, when I traveling all over for school, he would be at every game. It was just so supportive. So I was very lucky, you know, with that life that I was able to live, and went to college. And
What'd you major in?
I majored in psychology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought I wanted to be an English teacher. I always wanted to be I always wanted to be a psychologist, to be honest. But I wanted to be an English teacher. And in my freshman year, not that I was a great student in high school, but college really made me realize that like high school is not a joke, but like it's not as serious as college is. And I took my first English class and I think I got like a C or something. And I'm like, seriously, in English? Like this is what I wanted to do for a living. And soon after my freshman year, I was like, forgot that, I'm gonna do psych. Which honestly, like I said, that's something that I've always wanted to do, was like be a therapist as well.
You did good.
So I don't know, we'll see. But yeah. And I met Mike in college when I was 19.
You know Mike since 19?
Yeah. Next August I'll know him half my life. And we were friends at first. And you know, he didn't wanna have a girlfriend in college. So sad. He always says, thank God you never gave up on me, because I was stupid. But yeah. Then we started dating in college, but towards the end of college. But yeah, we've been together for a long time.
How long? Like 9, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, next year it'll be 19 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. And so we were together for a while, and then we got married. Actually, next month it'll be 10 years that we're married.
Happy anniversary early.
Thanks.
Wow.
Yeah.
All this fun stuff. I didn't know. I was the English major in undergrad.
Really?
English, yeah, and history and communication. So I was a double major. I hated psychology, which is funny.
Really?
Hated psychology.
That's crazy to me.
I took one psychology class.
Which one? Just regular general?
Intro to psych.
Uh-huh.
I want to say I got like a B or a C, and I was just like, didn't intrigue me. And then I was always into writing, like you know. So I always loved history, and I was good at English. So that's why, you know, I was like, oh, okay, let me stay in my lane. And then that way I could play basketball and do all that stuff. And I knew that I would be able to do well. So that's interesting how our paths have crossed. So you met Mike. You waited it out. You finally told him, listen, dummy, I'm here. Let's do this. How did it feel to become a mom for the first time?
The most amazing thing ever, honestly. I don't know. That's just like it's truly like the best joy ever. I always wanted to be a mom. You know, I don't know, as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a mom. And I don't know, then, you know, Michael and I were obviously trying to get pregnant, and I could have sworn that I was, you know, I had missed, you know, what you would, you know, your monthly friend. Yeah. And I remember taking a test and it told me that I wasn't, and I was telling me that I wasn't for like, I don't even know, I want to say 10 weeks or something. And so, yeah. And they kept telling me no. I went to the doctor. They told me no. And, you know, like, I don't know why, but it's, as a woman, I guess you just like, you feel so special. Like I wanted to be able to run back to him and be like, I'm pregnant, you know? Anyway, so finally I found out, I want to say it was like a little bit under like 12 weeks. So I was pretty much like almost done in my first trimester when I found out. I mean, I knew I did, you know, but like nothing was saying that I was. So then Mike was starting to think like, maybe I, you know, and I thought like, maybe I was just crazy. But then, you know, just going through that was like, honestly, such an exciting time in my life. I feel like Mike and I had been married for a while at that point, and we wanted kids for a while, and we had been searching for houses forever. And it just felt like it just wasn't going in our favor. Like, you know, we weren't getting pregnant. We weren't finding the perfect house. We put bids on houses, and they, you know, somebody else would put an all cash offer in. And then I found out I was pregnant. We went back to the house that I'm currently living in now, because we had really liked it, and we put in a bid, they accepted it. And then, you know, just getting everything prepared for the baby. And then when she came, when I thought she was a boy. I thought both of them were boys, but we never found out what we were having. So we wanted to be surprised. We come from very like traditional families, and neither one of our parents found out. So it honestly was I don't know, I don't know what it's like to find out earlier, but it was so exciting being in the hospital at that point and becoming a mom to this beautiful little girl who became our everything. And at that time, it was pre-pandemic. So our entire family was there. So Mike got to walk out and everyone was recording it. So, he got to be like, okay, what do you guys think it is? And he was like, it's a girl. And, I wasn't there for that part, but I got to see it in the video. Everyone's screaming, so excited that it was a girl. So that was the best part. And just being like the best mom for them. And then, luckily got pregnant 2 years later and, well, actually less than 2 years later, because they're pretty much 2 years apart. And my second one, I swore was a boy, swore it. And that was like the scariest, but coolest pregnancy ever. Cause he was during, the pandemic was born. And that was, luckily, thank God, I had 2 very good pregnancies. But that one was like the scariest one because, I didn't even know if I wanted to go to a hospital to have the baby because of how crazy COVID was. People were getting midwives and having babies at home. So I was really considering that. And then there was a time where husbands weren't even allowed in the hospital. I was so nervous to have the baby by myself. But luckily, I gave birth towards the end of June with her. And I was really nervous, to be honest, about not being able to like love another kid as much as I loved Michaela. And I like
there was a lot of love.
Right? Yeah, she is. I love her to death. But like that's I've heard people say before, like they're afraid to but they were scared to have a second child or other children because they were afraid that they weren't going to love them as much as the first one or something like that. And I was real life. I was like, how am I going to love this baby? I felt like I was cheating on Michaela. I really did. And of course, obviously, I love Finley so much as well. And it's so true what they say, like you like grow another heart. Like I love Michaela with all my heart. I love Finley with all my heart. But even the first day after I had her, I remember being in the hospital with Mike and I'm like, oh my God, like, I feel like I'm cheating on Michaela. Like, but it's truly like the best joy ever. And I never had a sister. I always wanted to have a sister. So it's so nice to get to see them like growing up together. And I know they'll be bickering and yelling at each other when they're older and yelling at each other for stealing their clothes and things like that. But I'm excited for it.
I love it. How did Michaela adjust to having to share you and Michael?
Honestly, she's really so much better now than she ever was. But she's a really sweet, loving little girl too. I know, I feel like I've told you before, but that song, Sweet But Psycho, became famous around the time she was born. And it truly, for both of them, it really, truly, like, it describes both of them so much. Like, they are sweet, but then they could be psycho. But when we brought Finley home, all she wanted to do was love her. And she was so little at that time. She was only 2 when we brought Finley home that like, she'd love her so much. She was like suffocating her, like, like trying to be on top of her and things like that. And it was an adjustment for her to share her mommy with somebody else. And now we're like over 2 years later. And honestly, I feel bad for Michaela sometimes too, because she really has adjusted so much. And Finley is still young and she's used to winning. If she says, oh, I want mommy, she's used to winning over Michaela. So I feel bad. Sometimes I'm like, no. I'm like, Mike, you need to take Finley. Like I need to have my time with Michaela. So, yeah. So, but she really is such a good sister. And especially since she went to school, I feel like it really helped, make a big difference too, and learning how to share and things like that, because Finley's at that age where she's having difficulty sharing, and Michaela's like, here you go, it's yours. And that it's nice to see her like becoming a big girl too. Yeah.
So your mom was a huge influence on you. What's the best parenting advice your mom has told you?
Oh God.
Melatonin.
What?
Melatonin.
I've never ever used melatonin.
It's okay.
I've never given melatonin to my kids ever. I have friends who swear by it. Swear by it. Yeah. You use it? You used it?
Oh, we have to.
Yeah.
Armani would never calm down ever.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, honestly, and I mean, I'm not like that type of person that's like anti-meds, because I'm definitely not. But I don't know. Knock on wood. The girls just really never got sick. So even like Tylenol and Motrin and things like that, I never even really had to give it to them until COVID came back around again recently. But what is the best advice she ever gave me? I don't really know if my mom ever.
Oh, well, let me help you. What's something you learned from her that you kind of feel like you do in her? I don't want to say like in her image. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was kind of where I was going. I know obviously my mom's given me so much advice, but I guess I just try and really juggle it all and be the best mom that I could be for my kids. The example I used before, that my mom, while I was growing up, when I was younger, obviously when we were in school and things got better, she just took a full-time job at the hospital, worked, I think, normal lift hours. But for her, she worked, different jobs. She worked with hospice, and she, would take care of people who were dying. She would get very close to her patients and hysterically cry. I know this obviously later in life, not when I was younger. Hysterically cry, in the car on the way home if they passed away, and then have to come home, like reset herself and then be a mom. So on top of that, like, doing that and then being the best mom, like, making us the best lunches, always writing the nice notes in our lunches, and literally doing, anything she could for her kids, and always going above and beyond, not even just, it was never the bare minimum. But that, and then, that night working an overnight, her words, she never like, and my mom and I are very close. We do say a lot of words, but she never had to tell me anything or whatever. Her actions just really set like such a great example for me. So that's where I try and, regardless of everything else, a lot of people at work will be like, I don't know how you do it. And, all the calls that you get, like, all throughout the day and, at night, and different things that you have to deal with, obviously having cell phones are much more easy to get in contact with now. As I'm sure, back in the day, maybe on call wasn't as crazy for my mom, but that's where, that's where I really like strive to be with like her, and follow in her footsteps.
You're doing a good job. So a lot of what you've talked about is, wanting to help people and be there for people. How do you kind of like receive it when someone just doesn't get you or totally misunderstands what you're trying to do to help them, or how you kind of present yourself? How does that kind of impact you, and how do you deal with that?
I mean, honestly, I think that I try and, I mean, I'm trying to think of in my head a couple of examples, but I think I really just, I don't know why, but just for myself, like, I don't like anybody to have, I I remember back in the day, I used to say that I never wanted to walk on a street and have to walk on the other side of the street because somebody on the other side like hated me or disliked this decision that I made in my life or something like that. So for me, you know, if somebody doesn't like me or doesn't like maybe a decision I've made or had to make that maybe affected them, you know, I really just try and talk to that person if I can, or just show by examples that I truly, you know, I truly do care about maybe, you know, this person or about the situation, or I'm just trying to do the best thing possible. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't, I don't know why. I mean, obviously not every person's going to like me, and it's not something that it should keep me up at night about. But if I do really hear that somebody doesn't like me, I am consciously trying to just make people understand basically maybe where I'm coming from or how that person and I can connect or similar in a certain area that maybe they would change their perception of me. Because one of my close friends when we were younger, after a while, after we became, you know, very close, she was like, you know, it's so funny. When I met you, I thought you were the biggest bitch ever.
You can curse. It's okay.
Okay. So she was like, I thought you were like the biggest bitch ever. And she's like, and you're actually like the nicest person. And I was like, thank you. And I was like, and so I think that sometimes with me being more reserved and shy, I think I was painfully shy in school, my mom said, when I was younger, which is funny because I wasn't shy with my family or my friends outside of school. But I think that and that's something that honestly I really consciously try and work on every day. You know, you don't know what anyone's going through in their shoes, or you know what's going on with other people, but I think people tend to look at other people or try and understand what's going on in their life and things like that. So that's something that, you know, I don't know. I just lost my train of thought completely.
No,
But that's something that, you know, I don't know.
So one thing I ask a lot of the moms that come on and the people that are in a position of, you know, kind of sculpting and molding and shaping. Little girl comes up to you and says, you know what? Oh, you know, Kathleen, you're one of my biggest role models. How do you feel about that? How does that make you feel?
Honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, I think that people, I don't know if anybody would ever get used to hearing so many compliments. Anytime that someone says it, like, it really truly means the world to me when whoever says it. And anytime that I hear it, it really does. Like, I don't know. It just makes you like proud of yourself, you know? And I've always wanted to help people, but again, like, be the best person that I could be. So when I hear people say that, it really, really, really just makes me so happy.
Yeah.
You know, and someone you and I both know, that I speak with her all the time. Giuseppa, you know, she truly is like such an amazing person and such an amazing help in my life that like I can't tell her as much. I literally, if I said thank you to her every single day for everything she's done to help me out, it still wouldn't be enough. And then, you know, she just is like, well, I just love you so much and I just admire you, and you know, you mean the world to me. And like, honestly and she says it a lot, to be honest. And every time, it just, I don't know. It really like just makes me happy and proud, like that I'm able to make an influence on somebody else's life that much, you know?
I think
And lucky that I got to meet somebody so amazing like her.
Yeah, you're amazing too. I know you're quick to delve out and push away and all of that stuff, but I do think that learning to take in is important too. Learning to take in the compliments and learning to take in, because you know you see the influence that you have on people. Carolyn, one of our mutual friends, said that you're her role model.
I love
You know that,
Carolyn.
and I don't know if she said that off the cuff, but she normally doesn't. She usually says what she feels.
And I love Carolyn too. Like, I also, that's where like I'm so thankful for like the jobs that I've had because I've gotten to meet so many awesome people. Really, really. And I totally hear you on the fact of being able to take in. That's something that is, it does make me proud or happy when somebody says stuff to me. But also, like I had told you, some nervousness about being on here today is like, you know, I don't like attention to be on me. I like to give other people attention, or I'm the one that kind of, like I said, like sits back and observes. And I like to, you know, tell people like, oh my God, you did awesome or whatever. And it's very hard for me to hear it about myself. But so that's definitely something I do need to work on. But thank you for your kind words.
Of
And
course.
thanks for Carolyn for being there too. I appreciate your support.
She blew you kisses.
I love you.
What was I going to ask you? I was going to ask you, I don't remember because I lost my train of thought. But there's always a backup question. What have you learned from Michael as far as parenting, and what have you learned from Michael as far as, you know, like work and life and stuff like that?
Parenting. Honestly, I feel like I've learned from him to like kind of take a chill pill and not take things so seriously. You know, honestly, both him and I are pretty laid back, I would say, people.
Yeah.
Though I do have a tendency to like be a control freak or be controlling and wanting to know, you know, kind of what's going on and things like that. So that's definitely something I think that I thought prior to having kids that I was going to be so anal about this and that, and everything had to be this way. And oh my God, and you can't give, oh my God, I saw this person, you know, and I love those memes about people being like, oh, when I have kids, I'm not going to let my kids have, you know, screen time. And I sat here and they had cell phones while they were at dinner, you know, things like that. I think I thought I was going to be a different mom than I am. And then, I don't know. I became a parent and realized that it's not so hard, yet it's the hardest job ever at the same time, you know? And so he helped me really to, I think, just kind of like take a chill pill, you know? Like when the kids fall, you know, they're gonna fall. He's like, okay, don't draw attention to it. Like, oh, you're fine, you're good, you're good. And I think like the nurturer in me would have wanted to be like, oh my God, baby, come here, I'll hold you, let me give you a kiss, you know, but they are fine, you know. So that's something I really think that he helped me be like a much more laid back mother. And what did he teach me in life?
Price wise, like personally, what do you think you learned about yourself besides patience, because he was being a dummy?
Yes. Well, that's something I do. I think I've always known I've had a lot of patience. He definitely tested my patience, but life lesson. I'd say like maybe that, you know, I don't know, that maybe sometimes like people surprise you when you least expect it, you know. Mike is somebody who is a man of little words. They always said that you marry your father or you marry your mother or whatever. I truly have realized that I married my father in a good way. But you know, I remember growing up and like my mom would come downstairs in a dress and my mom would be like, how do I look? And he'd be like, I look okay. Like, you look good. And like my mom, I remember that vividly. And she'd be like, oh, like, is he serious? And I'm like, Mom, you look really nice. Like, what's wrong? And I didn't realize obviously till I was later in life and dating people that like you want the person you're with to tell you like you're beautiful and you know all these things under the sun. And you know, and I know my dad thought that of my mom. I know Mike thinks that of me, but he may not be the one that, you know, is saying it every 5 seconds. But I feel like he definitely taught me that, yeah, like, you know, things don't you things surprise you. You know, when we were in right after college, you know, Mike grew up in Staten Island, so we dated in college, and then when we graduated college, we broke up. Mike also is very laid back, but he's very easygoing. So he sometimes I joke with him, he likes the easy way out. So I think he broke up with me because it wasn't easy anymore, you know, like we lived very far from each other. And so we weren't together for, I don't know, maybe 2 months. And then he, like I said, is not a man of many words. Like basically like broke down, like begged for me to come back to me, stated things, which who knows, maybe his friends helped him with words. But he said that, you know, he really truly felt that he was going to try and find somebody that was closer in Staten Island, that it wasn't as much as, you know, as difficult. And he realized that no one in his heart, you know, who knows, maybe he looked it up, but either way, to say something cheesy, it does take a lot for him to say it. He said that, like, no matter whatever person he met, like none of them were gonna be, you know, what was in his heart, and that, you know, his heart was meant for me. So things like that, you know, and honestly, you know, when you're trying to have kids and then you're not able to get pregnant for a little while, then I was like, okay, well, you know, maybe we weren't meant to be parents. And, you know, I started critiquing him and like how he was going to be when we had a kid and if I ever got pregnant. And then once we had our children, like, you know, he's like the best father ever. Like he really truly is such a great father to the girls. And they, you know, of course he is their everything. Like, you know, so little things like that. You always just, you know, that would be the life lesson, I think, from him.
So I was speaking to one of us was speaking, and you read me a quote, or you sent me a quote, and I think it's important that we discuss, because I do think that it's the idea of being a working mom and how hard it is. Your quote says, "The obligation for working mothers is a very precise one. The feeling that one ought to work as if one did not have children, while raising one's children as if one did not have a job." What does that mean to you, hearing back what you sent to me?
I feel like that's the toughest thing, regardless of whatever role you're in anywhere in life. I mean, maybe if you just want to work just to get a paycheck, then that might not be your quote.
Yeah.
But that's not how I am. You know, I in whatever job or role I want to do, I want to be able to be the best, you know, support for people and really make a difference. So that I feel like is like an ongoing battle with myself. I remember like growing up, one of my best friends always said she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, I would never want to be a stay-at-home mom. I just did never, like, even when I was a teenager, just knew I wasn't going to want to be a stay-at-home mom. And, you know, when I was on maternity leave, I had to stay a part of, you know, everything that was going on at work. I feel like I need to have some other type of connection to a larger thing in life, you know, and by all means, being a mom is the most amazing, most important role in my life. But I also do really enjoy helping other people who are in need. So I really love working. And so, you know, when you're at work, you know, I'm not saying that you're judged, but like, you know, if you're not going above and beyond, or if you're that person who's leaving every day at, like, let's say 5 o'clock on the dot to go home to be with your kids, you know, some people that you're working with or might be like, oh, well, must be nice to leave at 5 o'clock, you know, and by all means, I am not that person that leaves at 5 o'clock, but, yes, but, you know, like, it's like such a battle. So if you did work 9 to 5, then what is the problem to go home and then be able to be home for your kids? So that's always like my internal battle, like being at work. And then I know that there's always more people to help. So it's something that one of my old bosses always told me, like, you need to go home because tomorrow all those problems will still be there and you'll be able to deal with them tomorrow. So that's something I do try and remind myself, like when I'm having really late nights at work. And then, while I'm at work, like my head is like, okay, yes, work. I want to keep going. I want to keep helping them. And then I get home and I'm like, oh my God, my babies. And I get home and they're like, Mommy, are you home from work? Are you staying home? I'm not going to go back out again tonight. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm a horrible mother. Like, how did I do that? So that's where like that quote is so it just hits home because, you have to be at work and act as if you're not a mother. You have to, pour your energy and be the best person at work. And then when you're at home, and I'm guilty of it too. Like I feel bad at obviously being on call 24/7. I get calls, I get text messages. I have to help people still while I'm home. So like last night, 2 nights ago, Michaela loves to dance and she was dancing and I was answering a work email and she was like, Mommy, can you please put your phone down and watch me dance? So those like little things like that, gets to me. And then, when I'm home, I'm like, oh my God, that quote just really does hit home. And it makes me nervous because they're both really young. I've heard horror stories of like when they go into school and there's all these school events and, some stay-at-home moms, and I respect every stay-at-home mom, but they might have a little bit more time to be able to put things together for some of those events. But then you're judged basically as a working mother that like you're not at all these events or the PTA meetings and things like that. So I'm nervous for when that happens because I tend to be a person that tries to split myself into many, 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 many pieces.
Many,
so I could be at everything.
Pieces, yes.
But I don't know. Yeah. I really love that quote.
I think one of the things when I hear parents talk about that I was at every one of my kids' games and all that stuff and blah, 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 blah. It's just not possible all the time. Like, doesn't mean that you don't care and you don't love them. And I always tell parents that what your kids will remember, because as minds get older and ascend into adulthood, the time you spent with them when they were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, as they got older, they'll remember that because they're the ones that are going to judge how good a parent you are.
Yeah.
Not other people, your spouse to a degree, but the kids are going to say, oh, you're a good dad, or you're a bad dad, or you're a good mom, or you're a bad mom. Mm-hmm. And I think that your daughter is wanting to spend time with you gives you your answer right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's something like you hit that home. Like I always wanted to, where I was more like, I'd say proud of myself of like the role that I was able to achieve, because I always wanted like to set a good example for my daughters, to be like a boy, to them. I don't know, I feel like I grew up, or my parents grew up in an age where, the man was the person who really worked, mm-hmm. and the woman might have done some things, for other, just to make some ends meet, whatever. But mm-hmm. like the man was the breadwinner. So I always like wanted to set that good example for the girls, for them to be proud, to be like, oh, my mom's a boss, like I have a boss mom. But that's boss bitch.
Say it with me, yes, boss bitch.
Boss bitch. But that's where that's like the tightrope that I like juggle with, because I want to set that a good example for them to realize like they can set their expectations as high as they want and do whatever they want to achieve. And that they can be a boss mom too. But I also don't want them, like you said, when your kids grow older, they're going to judge you based off of, they're going to let you know how good of a parent you are. I don't want my children, years from now to be like, well, Mom, like, you were never there, or, you were there, but you weren't physically there. So that's where, I always try. That's one thing I really, really, really try. And I try and do it a lot. And it's something that I feel like I work with Mike a lot on it too, is being present and being in the moment. I just feel like, especially with technology, so many people are not present and not in the moment. And it doesn't mean it has to do anything with work. Even just today, I was at a person's birthday party, and at the time where maybe it was, looked like it was wrapping up the dinner or whatever. I'm looking around and people are just like sitting there on Facebook and, like, and I think I went on myself as well. But you just think about the fact of like, say you're having a crazy week and you're like, oh God, like I just can't wait to get out and, be out and enjoy being out. And it's like, we just people in general have to learn to be present more, but especially myself. That's something I really, really, really actively try and work on every day, is being present and being in the moment.
Oh, okay. I see you. So you had mentioned teaching, and we've taught a bunch together. What is the difference for you between teaching versus like what you do every day versus helping people? What do you think you get out of teaching, or what do you enjoy about teaching?
I always liked teaching because I felt like it was like a break from the regular day to day, which realistically, and very well, there is no typical day to day every day. That is truly why I love my job. That's why I loved all the jobs that I have had, because there is nothing becomes mundane ever, because there's always it's unpredictability.
Yeah.
But that's where I loved teaching, because it gave you a break from all of the craziness. And then you honestly got to teach people and like apply real life examples, and the classes I love the most. I remember Bryn, actually, when she was teaching, when I started to teach skip, she was like, oh, honestly, she goes, you're gonna love to teach, but you're gonna love to teach brand new skip classes. She's like, it's just something about like those newbies, like framing their minds, because the research, they act like they know everything, or they've been there, like they just have to research. She's like, but that's the best part. And that is really the part that I love the most, like trying to like frame the minds of those new people that are coming into the agency. And then, in any role, but especially my role now, I love teaching. In the beginning, you get to know who your teacher is. So I like to show that example, like, hey, I started out as the lowest thing possible, in the agency. The most important thing, I started out and held many, many roles, but I was a DSP as well. So like letting everyone know, like I was one of you. And if you want, you can, learn a lot about the agency and move up the ladder. But really, like, just getting to hone in on them about like the importance of just simple little things and how important their job is. Because they're the ones that are able to really change the lives of the people that we support, and they're the ones that are able to provide quality in their life. They're the ones that are able to challenge the system, where maybe somebody's stuck and they're in the same schedule and same routine every single day of their life, and then they come in and they're different than anybody else that's worked there, and they make the most impact on that person's life. Like, it's so cool. That's the part I love of the teaching, is getting to know that person and possibly have taught that person who's going to make such an amazing impact on that person's life with the program that they're going to.
Facts.
And it's pretty sweet getting to teach with, some awesome people like you, that, I typically may not have seen on, an all the time basis. So that was like awesome as well.
You mentioned that you like psychology, and mentioned that, you always wanted to be a therapist. Well, my question is, what does that look like? Is that something in your future? Is that something you don't know if it's in your future? Is that something you want to do on the side?
I had said earlier, I always wanted to be a psychologist. And or, you know, I always wanted to get my doctorate, to be honest. And then, honestly, like talking with you and getting to know like your educational backgrounds and everything like that, that really truly inspired me to like, you know, go into therapy.
Oh, you could do it.
So, it's something that, of course, I have explored and looked at some schools, but I haven't done anything else other than that yet. I did look into even like into some PhD schools, which isn't for psych though. That was for like nonprofit, um, you know, different types of things for nonprofits. Um, but um, but I really feel like the therapy part. I mean, honestly, social work was always something that I contemplated going back to school for. And you know, I don't know. I just know myself that at some point in my life, it's definitely going to happen. Um, and you know, well, so many of my friends used to be like, "Oh my God, like you need to be a therapist," like you know. And it would be something like I'd joke around about, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Nothing soon yet, but I don't know. It's so funny. Like your whole life, you can't wait to get out of school. And I feel like I'm such a weirdo in the fact that like I continue to look at programs and I'm like, oh, okay. So the PhD one, it was so much. And I was like, all right. I was like, but I always wanted to get my PhD. So I'm like, maybe I should do it. So, but I just feel like I would love to be a therapist, and it would be something that I would still do. Obviously, I would still keep my job, but it would be something that I would love to do, like at nights or on the weekends. It would be, you know, that would be an awesome addition. I feel it'd be something I would love to do.
First of all, and I tell people this all the time, you can go to counseling school, but you have to have a thing that makes you a good listener, a good person that can give insight. You're a counselor or you're not. I tell people this all the time. You're a therapist or you're not. It's stuff you can go and learn skills and all that stuff, but that's not what makes you unique or dynamic, you know. And there are a lot of therapists that are, and this is me listening to clients that come in and be like, they're boring or they're this or they're that, or they feel like they're talking from a textbook. And one thing I would say that makes you different is that one, you care, and two, you bring you to the conversations. And that's the most, but I think that's why you're effective with, I don't think I've met anybody that said that they don't like you or, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, I did have one person who was misguided and I told them, reach out to you and, oh, they're not who you said you were, blah, 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 blah. Well, you missed the picture. Lisa gets that. Lisa Vega gets that rap too a lot. Where people, whether you like her or not, I feel like so many people have an idea. And then you have to really sit down and get to know her. So you're in that same vein where if I don't sit down and get to know you and talk to you and appreciate who you are, then I'm going to miss it. So I think that's awesome. I think you'd be a great therapist. We're going to change speeds as we get towards wrapping up. You keep talking about music. Do you certain arts? Do you play music? Do you sing? Do you draw? Do you do any of that? Do you have talents that we haven't maybe talked about before?
I mean, I like to draw. Like, I think it's very therapeutic. I wouldn't say that I'm an amazing drawer, but I feel like I'm pretty artistic. I definitely don't do it often, but I do love to draw. I played flute, but in the band, but I am not musically inclined. I don't feel like I would love to be though. Mike actually plays the guitar. I would love to take guitar lessons. And I would love to be able to sing, but I have a horrendous voice. But that's something I would love, love, love to be able to do is sing. But I think that I think I'm kind of artsy in the fact of, I mean, you've been to a party. I love to throw like themed parties, and I will put together like all that decorations and things like that. So that's something that I feel like I love to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a little artistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, 10-year-old Kaywood, 20-year-old Kaywood and you are sitting down to dinner, what's that conversation like? I like the eyes.
Oh God. I don't even know. It's so funny. Like, I don't even remember myself as 10. I couldn't even tell you. How old are you at that point? 6th grade? I don't know. Are they 6th grade? Yeah.
10, 5th grade.
5th grade. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe we would just be talking about like sports or friends or something. I have no idea what you want to be. And I mean, I feel like maybe that's like kind of appropriate in the fact of my current me would be trying to talk to the 20-year-old to try and learn where the 20-year-old is at, and then give her some advice and guidance on where she'll be in her life when she grows up. And and then I'll talk to the 10-year-old about her life and how school is, and try and tell her that she can be a certain way. But I mean, my 10-year-old self was very fun and carefree person. 20-year-old, like I said earlier, I think that that was probably an age where I was always a very laid back patient person, but I'm sure that was probably where I was your priorities are different when you're 20. I'm sure that I was more concerned with when school was going to be ending. Like I said, I played college softball, so getting through that, and then when we were going to the bar, trying to go out, or when I was going to see Mike, because I don't think he wanted to date me when I was 20 still. Maybe we dated.
Come on, Mike, get it together, Mike Reardon.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, I think it would just be a lot of me just trying to get to know those two people and trying to teach them, let them know what they could be when they grow up.
That'd be awesome. That'd be fun.
That'd be so weird. That's a really cool question, though, Achille. I've I feel like I've heard questions like, what would you do if you could relive high school? Or like, would you relive high school, knowing what you know now? And I know that, like, I mean, I don't know. Would you relive high school knowing what you know?
High school I liked a lot. Middle school I hated. High school was cool. I liked high school. It was a chance to. That's when I started to become kind of like what you see now, the product you see now, where I was probably like 11th, 12th grade, where I was just like, I used to be so worried about what people thought and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. I was just like, oh, who cares? And I know people don't believe me when I say that I really don't care about a lot of stuff. I care, but like judgments and all of that preoccupation with who I am and, the shirts I wear and all that stuff, I'm always professionally being Achille. And you know me a long time, so you know that. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's when in high school when I really started to just not worry so much about trying to fit in, more trying to like just fit out and be myself. And that's kind of how I came up with, like, I use the phrase now, be an anomaly. Just be yourself.
And I love that.
What is your favorite band to listen to? Or group, or singer? I mean,
I don't know. I have the weirdest musical taste ever. I honestly don't think that there's any type of music that I don't like. When I went to college, I did not like country. That was the one genre I didn't like. And I had a roommate that was like the definition of like a true upstate girl. So she only listened to country. And it actually made me love country. So I do like country as well. Which, I mean, that's why I love music, because it just meets your mood. So like whatever mood you're in that day, you put stuff on. We actually had a fire pit at my house last night. And that's one thing I do love about music. You're able
to the fire pit.
It was an impromptu. We just wound up sitting outside and putting it on. But but like it brings you back to the places you were in life. And like a band that I mean I truly still do love and I loved when I was in high school is Linkin Park. Obviously their you know, lead singer is no longer here, but that I put on a song that they played when I saw them. I first saw them when I was 15, but it's so crazy. Like music, that's why I love it. It transforms you. It transformed me back to that Hammerstein ballroom when I was 15 and going to see them for the first time. Like it's just so cool to me. But like I mean, honestly, there's so many different things that I love. I sadly was a really big Hanson fan in my life at one point.
Hanson's amazing.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, Hanson's amazing.
They're not, but they are. But
Bob still.
Yeah, but I mean that's like their worst song ever. But a fun fact about Hanson was when I was in 8th grade, I loved them so much. I got to go see them at live at 10 or whatever it was. MTV used to have this concert at 10 o'clock at night that they would have. And it was at the Hammerstein Ballroom. And it was the first time I got to see them. And we had horrible seats. We won them from BLI. And me and 3 of my friends, the concert ended. We were like true, you know, young girls, started hysterically crying. And I was like, that's it. I was like, I'm like, we didn't wait this entire time to see them, to not meet them. And I kept seeing where their actual, what do you call it? Like the room is, that the hangout room or whatever before you go on stage. Yeah. Like, so I saw where their backstage room was. And then I saw like this door and I was like, guys, I'm like, come with me. So we snuck out this door, which wound up being a fire escape. And we scaled on the fire escapes on the outside of the building to try and get to the other fire escape. So we got there, came in through a door, and we walked right into their dressing room.
What?
Yeah. And we walked in, and I mean, I was young at the time. I was 8. The youngest, the drummer, Zach, was really young. I think he was a year younger than me at that point. So he was in 7th grade. So imagine 4 screaming girls breaking into your dressing room, screaming their heads off. So the police came right away. And but we got to meet them. They signed things for us. And then there were really cool VJs on at MTV at that point. So they like interviewed us. We got to meet all these people. And then Hanson actually wound up having, they made like they have like a Hanson magazine, and they wrote about it in their magazine. Like, we were those crazy girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you.
Thanks.
I like it. So, one of the things that I don't often see is when you have hard times, because you know you are a stalwart and you deal with everything, you take everything in stride. You could be getting hit with 75 meters at once. You'd be like, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, I got this. What's it like with the pressure of being a female as a vice president in an agency where, I mean, it's a lot of female, but would you say your opinion is not always valued as much as it should be?
Mm-hmm. So how do I deal with that?
Yeah, how do you deal with that? What's it like? How do you kind of navigate those waters?
I honestly, like, I mean, truly, obviously, there's not everything sunshine and rainbows in anybody's life. And I'm not, I mean, and I obviously you have to put on a front, you know, you pretend that you are, you're good and you're holding it together, but you know, you choose when you are able to lose it. So honestly, I felt like I was a very big crier earlier in my life, and I don't really cry as much anymore. But you know, if you need to cry, like, you know, you go into your car and you have that cry, you let it out. I have great supportive friends and family if I really need to talk to somebody about it and let it out. but you know, wanting to be heard and understood and listened to. I think in just in general, anywhere in life, not even just at work, that's always a struggle. You know, you feel like you might be an everyday expert.
You
Ooh,
are
name
everyday
drop.
expert.
No, you feel like you might be an everyday expert in like a particular area, and you just are trying to help somebody or show somebody like, no, you understand it, and then they just don't want to listen to you. I
Yep.
think that's something that's like so frustrating in every aspect of life. It's not like it's, you know, just at work or with your friends, anything. Like you truly honestly know, and you're giving them solid advice and they're not listening to you, but that's just part of life. And that's something I really just kind of learned to kind of accept. You can't always make everybody happy. You might know the answers. They might be the right ones. People might not want to listen.
Mm.
So, there was something that happened this week at work that, there was sound judgment in something that I did and something that I said. It wasn't, I wouldn't say somebody else wanted it said differently.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I said it in any way, shape, or form bad, but they wanted said differently, and it bothered me and it irritated me and it got me mad for like a second, and then I realized like, why is it even getting me mad? Like it is what it is. I said it. I said what I wanted to say. I'm always going to be truthful to myself, and if it was, I mean, it's something very minuscule, but it did get me upset because, somebody didn't want me to say what I had said. And, it was just like, it's something so minuscule. And then I was like, why am I even allowing myself to get upset? Because I'm always going to be true to myself. I don't ever want me to be like, oh my God, why didn't I say more? Or why didn't I do more or something, So I'm like, it is what it is. We'll say what I'm going to say. If you don't want to take my advice or you don't want to listen to me, it's your prerogative. That's your right. That I just have to accept it. It is what it is.
I hear you. Say that a lot there.
Yeah.
2 questions left.
Okay.
The next to last question, because the last question I normally ask everybody is, if you could be any superhero or supervillain, who would you be and why? I'm sure you've answered that question before, so I'll ask you so all of the adoring fans can hear.
I don't think I've ever answered that, to be honest. You always ask me if you could have a superpower, what would your superpower be?
Okay.
But I never said this superhero one.
Or
Or
supervillain.
Or supervillain. I don't think I'd want to be a villain, honestly.
I knew you were going to say that. Karen's like, nah, she doesn't want to be a villain.
I know. I'm sure it would be fun to be a villain, but like, I would feel bad, like hurting people or like, I feel like that's just like my MO. Like maybe if I could be a villain and not think about it, then I would be a villain. But yeah, I would think about like how I affected somebody or how I affected their family by like being a villain.
Very nice.
So a superhero. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'd be like Batman.
Interesting.
Because
Patty likes that.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like appropriate for just in general, like Gotham City is maybe a city that was good, but it went bad, which is kind of like there's different aspects of life that could be really bad, and he's like a Batman, Batwoman, whatever. But like it's a badass person that could, is so badass, like villain wise. And they like help teach these like the villains, they teach them lessons. Not like just like that. I was gonna say Superman, but like Superman, I feel like he puts on his cape and he just like flies and picks up a dog that's gonna get run over or something. Like Batman like really truly goes in there and like makes a difference. Like, he like,
See that?
I
I,
don't know.
I respect it. I respect it. So your last question. You're creating your own agency or business. What 5 people would you want to help you run the agency? And
Oh,
why?
that's a very rude question because
Why is that rude?
that's like the rudest question ever.
Why is that? Wait, why is that rude?
Because honestly, I truly don't even think I could answer that because there's so many people that I would have at my agency.
That's such a perfect question for you.
But I can't though. You know how many people I hear Carolyn laughing in the background. Like, I mean, just oh my god, just so many freaking people.
Okay, all right.
And if I start going down the list, like you, like
okay,
Carolyn,
because people have
Chris,
feelings.
Bryn,
Okay,
Stephanie, Annie, Giuseppe, Marjorie.
All right, okay, people have feelings.
Davina.
So let me ask you a different question. You're creating your own agency, okay? What would you want to do? Like, what would you want the agency to be doing, and where would you want it to be located?
On Long Island.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I love many other places in the world, just my family's here. So I would never want to move anywhere else unless they were moving. And so I would definitely love for it to be here. Long Island or even in the city. And honestly, I don't know. I think that maybe that was why I thought maybe I wanted to get my PhD in non-for-profit, just to kind of learn more about all different types of non-for-profits. Because
that's like John gets bent. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem. Because I think that what I would do is really similar to, what I do now. I would mostly have an agency that provides residential services in home, like with the family, because I think that's one of the most important parts too. Just speaking to so many parents in previous roles, friends, it's difficult. Your children, you want to live with you forever and you want the best for them. And so I think that in-home therapy and services are really, really, really the most important part. And so important, especially for those parents that just haven't had any supports forever, like had no training, no therapy, nothing, and that was part of my favorite roles too when I was in MSc. Is it was being that first person doing the admissions and getting to know those poor families that took forever to get in through the front door to get their services. So I mean, that would definitely be the majority of what I would do, and in home mobile crisis kind of things like that. Coming from day program, who knows, maybe I would like to have a larger agency that has like a day program too, something there, meaningful, supported employment. I don't think I would go anywhere past all of that, because I would like to just excel at what services I provide, and provide the best services I can in those areas. But I understand why you'd want to provide every service because you want to be able to give everybody every option. But I think that just in general in life, not meaning that you can't be a good person because you don't come from a good home or because you weren't taught the right thing. But I think a lot of things in life stem from home. So that's where I'd love to do things in home and like a residential services, because that's where you learn everything. You might learn everything wrong at home, and then that makes you want to be the exact opposite and do, the right thing. So that would be definitely the majority of the services that I would provide.
Awesome. For the record, that wasn't a rude question.
What?
That wasn't a rude question. That was a very Achilles question.
Oh. No, wasn't meaning it was really rude. I was meaning it was rude because they're,
I know you don't want to hurt people's. I know you don't want to hurt people's feelings. I get
there's
that.
so many people, that are just truly amazing. That if I ever did that, I would be knocking on so many people's doors, being like, "I'm sorry, you're coming."
We know where the buck stops, though, with the K-Wood. I got it. So, as I previously started to touch on, there was a time when you were going through something, and I want to end with a piece that I wrote for you called Jim Sparkle in the Sun as well. And then I never got your reaction to it, so I'm putting you on the spot, and I'm going to make you blind react to it. Hidden gems buried right underneath the surface. Surface so quiet and reserved. Outwardly boisterous with your support and love. Everyone covets the diamonds, but we're supposed to. But gems illuminate in the sun as well. Diamonds are forever. Gems go on perpetually. So you keep your diamonds. They lose value as they gain imperfections and cracks, but that comes with time. Imperfection is an illusion, not reality. I'd rather be a gem that keeps pressing on, that retains its beauty and grace and perseveres, that no matter what happens, they still stand strong, like you and all that you are. This is a little late, but tough times shape the best of us. Gems, hardships make us. Gems, never let them dull your sparkle or shine. Keep being a savage, but mostly keep living in the sunshine. Be a fucking gem because they sparkle in the sun too. They sparkle like you.
I love that. It's so badass.
Well,
I really appreciate it. I never told you how much I love that.
You say the same thing all the time.
I did?
No, I believe I believe you. What message did you take from it?
Like I truly love, like something I really love when you're always like, oh, you're a boss bitch, like you're a boss, you know. And like my best friend Christina will always be like, he says that, like, you know. What I took from that is just, I don't know, I truly loved it. And you wrote it after a tough time in my life. It is just so cool. Like, you know, people you always want to be a diamond. And then like, you forget about this gem that's like, it's just as badass, you know? So I don't know. That's just it. It makes me feel really special, and it makes me feel like a boss bitch. Like it just, I don't know, it just does.
Well, we've done it. So next week, Matt, can you bring up the slate, please? Next week we have Miss Stephanie coming on, I believe. I don't know if Matt's still there.
Woohoo!
He might have fallen asleep. It's okay. Next week is Stephanie, and then I think the week after is my friend John, who is going to be talking about. Oh, it should be, Matt. The September slate should be in there. Sorry, logistical stuff. If it's not, that's okay. So, Miss Reardon, stay on. Don't go out.
Okay.
Okay. I thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And as I said, there are very few people I've met that are as nice and, you know, giving as you. And I think you said that you feel special because I think that's how you make a lot of people feel. And you should embrace that feeling.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me, Kelly.
Of course.
Thank you, everybody, for who was there for support.
Thank you to Christina, our best friend, Carolyn, The Woods, my baby Patty, Mr. Nails. I don't really like you, but I'm glad you're there. Mr. Get Bent, rock on, brother, and thank you for the compliments. It was lovely. Thank you. We'd happily follow. They would follow you, Carolyn. See. All right. On that note, thank you for tuning in to Everyday Experts. Joker out.
Thanks, guys.